Hi everyone, it's your favorite MLB newsbreaker, Bob Nightingale, and you're listening to the Lollygaggers Dynasty Recap. Enjoy the show, and thank God for Jeffrey Springs.
Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lollygaggers Dynasty Recap. We are back for Season 2. I am your host, Zang. That's right, this is now an official Bob Nightingale approved podcast. Dumbest thing in the world? Absolutely. Could I be happier about it? I really don't think so. We are so happy to be back here for Season 2. Everything is pointing to it being even more fun with more intrigue and excitement than Season 1. 2 new teams in the league, identities to make these recaps a little bit more fun. And just some other stuff we'll be throwing in to the podcast and to the league to, continue to make this a great time. Shout out to Ace. Truly, the man has been working so hard to find time. The Sunday nights work pretty well for him. Weekdays really do not. And as he said in our DMs, Riverside just does not want us to have nice things, man. It wouldn't work last night. It wasn't uploading any of the content except for just the sound bite. So as much as we would have loved to record, I don't know how much fun just, silence and then the best bats and potent pitcher sounds going every, 15 minutes or so would be for you all. So I am running this one solo. We should be good to go again next week, though, assuming, the program doesn't kind of crap out on a Sunday night. So we are going to dive in, start things off with our matchup minute ahead of each section of the podcast. I will just be, kind of reminding folks of how things go, what each of the sections are, as, obviously we do have a couple new listeners, regular listeners to the show, as well as, it's been a little while. So maybe you need a little bit of a refresher, and that is something I am happy to provide. So the first section, of course, we will be going through is the matchup minute. That is where we recap each of the matchups from the week. I know, a shocker based on the name. During the matchup minute, we will incorporate a couple more sections, which are the best bats and the potent pitchers. Can you tell I like alliteration? I don't know if you can tell that or not. So after I recap each matchup and share sort of the final scores, I will share each team's best batter and best pitcher. If they were in the top 5 for points scored, as a batter, you'll hear this sound. That means they were one of the best batters. And for a potent pitcher, you'll hear this sound.
Swung on and missed.
And that indicates that they were one of the 5 best pitchers this week. So just to give a little bit of perspective on how people's batters and pitchers performed. So we'll get started with our first matchup. It is the Portland Pioneers taking on the runner-up St. Petersburg Tropopologists. Things got started very quietly. Just 1 point from Matt Chapman going to the Pioneers on Wednesday. But of course, things really did ramp up on Thursday with the proper opening day. Portland putting up 101 points, crossing that century mark with 34 from Crochet and 13 from Tobias Myers. Not too shabby over on the other side, as the Tropopologists would put up 69 nice points of their own. Tarek Skubal with 34, Hunter Brown with 20, and Dominic Canzone with 16. We'll talk about how he got onto the team later. Of course, the unfortunate story of the afternoon was Paul Skeens with his minus 16 points. I have a feeling that is by far the lowest points we are ever going to see from him. Maybe again in the history of Dynasty Baseball, but certainly this season. Just a tough start for Skeens, but he is sure to be back soon. A nice 69 points from Portland on the other side to follow up on Friday as they held that lead to just 15 points from the Tropopologists. They did get 11 points there from Zach Neto, but the 34 points and a great first start on the season for Sandy Alcantara did give Portland, a further lead there, but things would really be sealed on Saturday as the 87-36 Portland lead made things a little bit uncatchable. We saw 10 from Terang, 12 from Wheeler Abreu and Luis Robert each, 14 from Shea Langoliers, and then 27 from Dylan Cease as the Pioneers sort of sealed their victory on that day. Didn't mind 12 from Gino Suarez or another 13 from Wheeler on that last day. And Neto with another 13, a solid start to the season for him over in St. Pete. But the St. Petersburg Tropopologists would fall to the Portland Pioneers 140 to 316, 176 points separating the two of them. And we actually had a few best batters and potent pitchers in this matchup. Over on the Pioneer side, the number 4 ranked best batter, Shea Langoliers, with 30 points, was a fantastic start for the trade acquisition from the Pioneers this offseason, and a pair of potent pitchers.
Swung on and missed.
Number 3, Sandy Alcantara, and number 4, Garrett Crochet, both with 34 points. Hold the phone, though, because over in St. Pete,
Swung on and
Tarek
missed.
Skubal and his 34 points also tied for the 4th best points by a starting pitcher this week. So, obviously, a big pitching matchup. You are expecting that when it comes to St. Pete. And boy, they just got unlucky. Some really tough starts. Minus 11 from Brandon Sproat on that last day too. Again, I have a hard time believing that is going to be kind of the Brandon Sproat we're going to be seeing. And certainly that minus 16 from Skeens is not something we will expect to see the rest of the season. St. Pete is a team that is built on their pitching. And that first start of the season can really go one of two ways. You can get 34 from Sandy, or you can get the minus 16 from Skeens. And unfortunately, things did just not break St. Pete's way. I said this in the Discord. I'll say it again here. I have a very hard time believing we will ever see a scoreline like this again. Of course, you heard in the PSP how much I like this team, and I think they are going to be a problem for the rest of the season. Didn't get to mention Zach Neto and his 28 points. That was the Tropopologist best batter for the week. We'll move on over to our second matchup as we saw the Arctic Real Survivors take on the North Pole Natty Bows. Our first expansion team got a great start on Wednesday, unsurprisingly. We know Min loves his Yankees. 47 points, 32 of those coming from Max Fried and 6 from Trent Grisham. Not too shabby, with Giancarlo Stanton recording 4 points over on the other side for the North Pole Natty Bows, but a tough start from Logan Webb, only racking up 2 points, made it so that it was just 9 for him on the day. But the script would be flipped on Thursday as North Pole recorded 61 points on the back of Ryan O'Hearn's 9 and Joe Ryan's 26. Just 3 from Evaldi over on the other side contributed to a 6-point day on Thursday for the Real Survivors. A little bit closer on Friday, although North Pole did hold the league 51-38. The total points scored on that day. Stanton with another 8 and Chris Sale still doing it with 30 points. They racked up even closer on this day, 89-94 for the Real Survivors and North Pole, respectively. Ronaldo Lopez with a great 23-point performance, and Christian Walker with 10, and Glasnow with 25 over on the Natty Bows side, to, of course, Lopez on the Real Survivors. But it just would not be quite enough, as the North Pole Natty Bows would close it out with a 54-point performance on that 4th day straight of holding the lead. It did end 269-220, 49 points separating the two of them as North Pole racks up their first win of the year. No best batters or potent pitchers for this group, but Altuve did have 14. He was the Real Survivors' best bat for the week, and Fried with 32. You can always count on him. Christian Walker with 25 points was the best batter for the North Pole Natty Bows. That is an interesting one to keep an eye on. Obviously, the mark of consistency Christian Walker has been for many years, and then just kind of fell off a cliff in his first year in Houston. If he is anything like the player he used to be, and especially if he starts utilizing those Crawford boxes, I think as a lot of us expected he would, he is going to be, I think, a very valuable piece for the Natty Bows. Little sneeze there. And of course, Chris Sale, the 30-point scorer, was the Natty Bows' best pitcher. I think this is a good look at these two teams. Natty Bows, of course, very well rounded up there in the North Pole, and Arctic Real Survivors, look, they are piecing things together. This is an expansion team, and I don't want us to ever forget that at any point this season, because Min and KJ had a tougher task than any of us have ever had. It was quite close, and shout out to Min for keeping it close like he did. But unfortunately for Min, he would walk away with the loss this week, even on a close one. We will slide over to our third matchup now as we get to see the Fenton Melonheads take on the Valley Gift Lords. Nobody had anyone going on Wednesday, so that started, of course, 0-0, but things ratcheted right up on Thursday. Fenton just 4 points shy of the century mark, recording 96 total points on the day. That came on the back of a few batters in Jake Berger and Carson Ben. Again, I am told he's Ben, B-E-N-G-E, Ben. That's what my Met fan in my life tells me. I will definitely be proven wrong if I am proven wrong, though. And Jose Soriano with his 32 points. Murakami got a nice start for the White Sox over on the other side with 10 points of his own for the Gift Lords, although only 12 points in total for the team on that day. 61 points for Fenton on Friday with 23 over in the Valley. Drake Baldwin with 9 and Michael King with a solid 21 points contributed for Fenton. Over on the other side, on the next day, they would continue to hold that lead, 78 points to 87, despite the Valley Gift Lords outscoring them that day. Randy Vasquez's 34 points, would supply Fenton with many of those points that helped them hold the lead. And Matt McLean with 10 and Taj Bradley with a surprising 19 on Saturday did inch that mark a little bit closer, but it would not be quite enough as Isaac Paredes and Jesus Sanchez's 10 points for Fenton on Sunday contributed to the total of 79 to 60 over on the Valley side. We did see 17 from Colson Montgomery and 30 points from Seth Lugo, but it unfortunately would just not be enough for our friends out in the Valley as they would fall to the Fenton Melonheads 182 to 314. 132 points separating them there, and we will slide down to their next groups. Jordan with 24 points was Fenton's best batter for the week, and Randy Vasquez with his 34 ranked as the number 4 best pitcher, the number 4 potent pitcher, I should say. Can't get off of my alliterations here. Murakami with 25 points. Looks like maybe Ace and I were onto something last summer when we called him the number 1 pick. 25 points for Murakami and 30 for Lugo. Were some solid performances for the Gift Lords, but just not quite enough. Sliding down to matchup number 4, we saw the Joinville Friendly Capybaras taking on the Cuyahoga Black Panthers. Just like our last matchup, we did not have anyone facing off on Wednesday, but things got right going on Thursday. 82 to 75 for Joinville and Cuyahoga, respectively. Jonathan Aranda and Will Smith both recorded 12 points for the Friendly Capybaras, while Mike Trout, our old friend, racked up 10 of his own, and don't forget about those 10 from Brendan Donovan. Pardon me, that was 11 from Trout. Over on the other side, we saw Andrew Abbott in his opening day start rack up 24 points for the Black Panthers, with Francisco Alvarez tallying 11 as well. Cuyahoga kept the strong starts theme continuing on Friday as they put up 66 points, 23 of them from Framber Valdez and 35 from Kevin Gosman. Also recording 66 on the other side, we saw 11 from Trout once again, but a minus 12 from Jeremiah Estrada. A big theme for this week was tough bullpen performances, and even the Friendly Capybaras were not immune to that. However, the matchup really made its way on Saturday as the lead they had built over the last 2 days was extended significantly as we saw Joinville put up 109 points to Cuyahoga's 40 on that day. 31 of those points came from Waka on Joinville's side, and they would secure the win with a 68 to 41 daily win on Sunday. Brendan Donovan again in that group providing 14 of the points. Joinville walks away with the win 325 to 222, 103 points separating the two teams, and some pretty impressive performances on the batters and pitchers side. First of all, like seeing an old friend from elementary school, Mike Trout with 30 points, man, give it up. How about that? It is so good to see. I would absolutely love another Mike Trout, 8-10 WAR season. That would be so great. And Hideki enjoyed that on a couple fronts. Michael Wacha with his 31 points was his most potent pitcher. Chase Mydroth with 13 for the Black Panthers was his best batter. And as the number 2 ranked potent pitcher,
Swung on and missed.
Kevin Gausman with 35 points led the way. Definitely going to be hard to win, even in a short week when you have a battered recording, just 13 points there for the Black Panthers. But they have a number of guys who I think we can pretty comfortably see stepping up in the rest of the season. And it should be interesting to see how the team that finished last place last season fares after, frankly, a pretty active offseason looking to improve their team. Moving to our 5th matchup, we have the Seoul Sovereigns taking on my co-host Ace's Arizona Asphalt. As I'm saying this, I'm just remembering, I'm going to be trying to do my best to, I think especially in the first 5, maybe 6 episodes, I'm going to try and tie names that we know to the team names, as well as we're all kind of just adjusting to them, making sure that we know who is who. This is, of course, Inten's Seoul Sovereigns. They would take the lead on Wednesday, but they didn't have any players playing. Now, how can that be? Well, Willie Adames did record -1 point for the Asphalt on Wednesday, which gave the Sovereigns a lead without scoring a point. The script would flip on the next day, though, as the Sovereigns scored just 31 points to 96 from Arizona, -15 from Ian Seymour over on Seoul's side, while the Arizona Asphalt saw their strong pitching staff lead off with Yamamoto and Mizorowski, both tallying up 27 points. Andy Pajes with 11 wasn't a shame on that day either. A relatively low-scoring Friday, just 22-19 for the Sovereigns and Asphalt, but we saw things pick back up into the 80s on Saturday as Nico Horner recorded 10 and Mitch Keller recorded 27 for Seoul, while over on the other side, we saw both Ian Happ and first-round pick in the first-year player draft, Andres Jimenez, record 10 points for the Asphalt. Things were extremely close on the last day, and it looked like Seoul had the win locked up. They had tallied up 97 points on the back of Mackenzie Gore's 22, Christian Yelich's 11, Yandy Diaz's 16. There was that one blemish of Sir Anthony Dominguez and his -11 points, but as long as Randy Arozarena was held quiet on Sunday Night Baseball, the 30 points that Arizona had racked up would not be enough to push them over the edge. But they don't call him just some guy, Randy. They don't call him whoever, Randy. They call him some motherfucker named Randy, and he tacked up 9 points, pushing the Arizona Asphalt over the Seoul Sovereigns and giving them the win for the week. This was by far our closest matchup, just 5 points separating the two of them, 239 to 234, as we do see the Asphalt move to 1-0 in that narrow victory. Somewhat fittingly, Randy Arozarena was the Asphalt's best batter at 24 points on the week, and Yamamoto on 27 and some change was their best pitcher. Over on the other side, 24 points from Christian Yelich. Don't forget about him, folks. He's still doing it out there in Milwaukee, while Keller and his 27 was the best pitcher for the Sovereigns. Moving into matchup number 6 now, we have the second matchup containing an expansion team as we see the Southwest Kansas Rabid Coyotes face off against the Sault Ste. Marie Locks. Southwest Kansas did get the lead on Wednesday as they got 4 points from Jazz and held it through Thursday with a 57 to 39 point performance. For the Rabid Coyotes, Michael Bush, Sal Frelick, and Trevor Rogers scored 11, 12, and 32 points each. Trevor Rogers continuing on that really strong start from last season. The Sault Ste. Marie Locks saw 12 points from Alec Boehm. That's got to be great to have. Oh, what's that? Producer's telling me he was traded mid-game. That's true. This would be the last game that Boehm plays for the Sault Ste. Marie Locks, but gave him that little parting gift of 12 points on the way out, and 15 from Alec Burleson. Let's not forget that Alec Burleson was the top batter, the batter taken from that A group for the Sault Ste. Marie Locks. So Certainly, KJ will be hoping for a lot out of him this season. Similar to our last matchup, things quieted down a little bit on Friday as we saw Okies, Southwest Kansas Rabid Coyotes record 28 points, 11 of them coming from Aussie Albies, and just 5 over on the Lock side from Glaber Torres. 30 points in total on the day. That wouldn't quite be enough to push them over the edge, but finally on Saturday, the Sault Ste. Marie Locks would flip the script and take the lead on a 78-12 run. On that Saturday, we did see 31 of those points come from Michael McGreevy. That'll get you a lot of them. Over on Southwest Kansas' side, we saw Cade Horton record 26 points, the hometown kid. But wait a minute, Zang, you said they scored just 12 points on that day. Remember what I said about that theme? Hunter Barco with -10 would not be the star of the show because Carlos Estevez recorded, I think, the most significant negative in -22 that I have ever seen. Absolutely decimated the day for Okie and the Rabid Coyotes and did leave them at just 12 points. It would end up being kind of the killer blow, as although the Rabid Coyotes did score 52 points the next day, Sault Ste. Marie's 21 were enough to hold the lead for them and give them the first win by an expansion team this year. Brandon Nimmo, with those 12 points, helped Sault Ste. Marie get across the finish line, while Bregman's 17 were almost enough for the Southwest Kansas Rabid Coyotes to take back that lead. The matchup ended relatively low scoring, both teams in the 100s, 168 for Sault Ste. Marie to 153 for Southwest Kansas. That does mean just 15 points separated them. So obviously that Carlos Estevez blow-up ended up being the difference in the matchup. A tough pull on a guy who really was very consistent last year. Unfortunately, fastball velocity was way down, so he'll definitely be somebody to keep an eye on for Okie and the rest of us just to see how things go the rest of the season. Bregman and those 17 were the Rabid Coyotes' best batter, with Trevor Rogers and his 32 being the best pitcher. We know what a big fan Okie was of Trevor Rogers after he kind of came over and did such a good job at the end of the season last year. So certainly nice for him to see it continue in Southwest Kansas. Over on the Lock side, we did see that start from Michael McGreevy be the best pitcher, with Alec Burleson and his 24 points as the best batter. Again, I mentioned the number one batter for Sault Ste. Marie taken in that expansion draft. So definitely good to see that bat racking things up. We did save what was projected to be the best for last. Certainly one of the most interesting matchups coming in. The Washington State Winners, our reigning champions, taking on the Bronx Bandoleros. This is Mike versus JMC, a classic matchup in this league, as you all know. Nobody going on Wednesday for either one of these teams, but on Thursday, the party got started. The highest single scoring day in the league this week, Mike and the Washington State Winners put up 114 points on Thursday, 17 coming from Lau and 17 coming from DeLauder. 38 from Christopher Sanchez. My goodness, is he good. It was a bit of a slow start for the Bandoleros on Thursday, just 23 points, but 12 of them coming from their ever valuable and consistent catcher in William Contreras. Friday was a day where we saw 67 points from the Winners and 46 points from the Bandoleros. The Winners had things a little bit spread out. Yes, 29 of them came from hometown friend in George Kirby, but we got 11 from Mookie and 10 from Cole Young. A nice spread. Over on the Bandoleros side, we saw Mike Harris and Aaron Judge, both pieces of that incredible outfield. As we know, they each racked up 8 points, while Cam Schlittler racked up 32 for the Yankees and for the Bandoleros. On Saturday, we saw the Winners score 87 points to 92 for the Bandoleros. Although they won the day, it would not be enough to give them the lead yet, as Washington held the lead they had started since that first day. Sal Stewart with 11 and Brian Wu with 28 contributed to those 87 points from the Winners, while we saw Royce Lewis and Yuri Perez, a couple of just JMC guys, TM, You know what I mean? Just like JMC guys, they racked up some of those 92 points. It looked like there may have been a chance if the Bronx had had a really strong day on that final one, but it was just about tied 49-48, and it would not be enough despite 16 points from Jordan Walker. The Washington State winners open up their title defense with a win over the Bronx Bandoleros, 317-209. 108 points separate the two of them. As well as I think we saw many of the Bandoleros play, Jordan Walker with 20 points and Cam Schlittler with 32 as their best batter and pitcher respectively. It's kind of a shock this wasn't more of a blowout, because the Washington State winners had not one, not two, not four, but three different members of the top 5 best bats. Let me hit it just one time for you all, because you don't need to hear all of that. Brandon Lau ranked as number 1 with 31 points. Chase DeLauder at number 2, also with 31, just a fraction lower. And Sal Stewart at number 5 with 28 points. 3 bats on the best batters list. And, how about also
Swung on and missed.
the number 1 potent pitcher in Christopher Sanchez, who recorded 38 points and was the best pitcher for the week. It's not a shock that we are talking about the defending champion when we see a scoreline like that. Of course, we know the team Mike has put together. Things really could not have started better for a championship team that I think, interestingly enough, we saw quite a bit of turnover, investing in some young guys like DeLauder and Stewart. Hey, that seems to have worked out pretty well. Not too bad. And hey, the Jordan Walker, is this the year? Could be fantastic for the Bandoleros. And of course, we saw strong performances from some young guys like Yuri and Schlittler, and William Contreras is always going to be a big part of that team. I certainly expect them to have a stronger week, next week, as we have a full set of games. This was a bit of a tricky week, as you all, I guess, know. It's hard when there's only one series worth of games. Next week, we are obviously going to get a larger sample size, and from that larger sample size, we will probably see water find its level a little bit more when it comes to some of these teams that I think we expect to be quite a bit better, not scoring as many points. Slide now down to the standings segment, where you will hear about where everyone stands in the league. As you all know, of course, record is our first tiebreaker. Your record determines where you are. But after that, it comes down to point differential. Oh, pardon me. I said that so many times last season, and it was wrong. Not point differential, but total points. And I'm going to run in and double check it right now, because now I'm scaring myself. Although, no. I know. It's total points. It is total points. Total points scored is the next differentiator. So, of course, the top 7 are all 1-0, and the bottom 7 are all 0-1. What is separating them? Well, it is the points they have scored. Number 1, we have the Joinville Friendly Capybaras with the defending champion Washington State winners in second place. Portland Pioneers round out the top 3 with Fenton Melonheads just outside at number 4. North Pole Natty Bows and Arizona Asphalt hold up the 5 and 6 spots, with expansion team Sault Ste. Marie Locks at the 7 spot. Starting off our group of 0-1, we do have the Seoul Sovereigns, who was the highest scoring team to not win last week. Behind them, our second expansion team, the Arctic Real Survivors, at the number 9 spot. Starting off double digits are the Cuyahoga Black Panthers, Bronx Bandoleros in 11th place, with the Valley Gift Lords in 12th. And then the Southwest Kansas Rabid Coyotes in 13th place, with the St. Petersburg Tropopologists in 14th. We will see those standings again next week, and of course, they should be a little bit more, I think, reflective, as it won't just be basically total points or did you win or lose separating them. Our next section is the Bench Blunders. Bench Blunders is a chance for us to take a look and say, hey, you left that guy on your bench. He scored quite a few points. That could have affected the matchup. In redraft, well, maybe it slides by, but this ain't redraft, baby. This is Dynasty. Starting things off, we do have Owen Casey, who totaled 18 points between Saturday and Sunday for Joinville. He, had 8 on Saturday and 10 on Sunday, both left on the bench or in the minors. Andres Jimenez had 12 on Friday for the Asphalt, but of course he did rack up some more points for the Asphalt to start things off. And Kevin McGonigal with his 14 points on Thursday on opening day. North Pole did not leave him on the bench much after that, of course, because with 14 points, no one's going to complain. Eric Sabrowski with 12 points was one of our pitchers left on the bench on Thursday for the Arizona Asphalt. Joinville features on the list again with Aaron Ashby recording at 12 points, also left on the bench, this time on Saturday. But of course, the most significant Saturday benching would be Erod. Eduardo Rodriguez, who did tally 20 points for Cuyahoga. However, he was a member of the bench during that day. None of these would have flipped a matchup. Of course, when they do flip a matchup, we definitely look to point that out. But this is just a chance for us to notice who maybe had some points but didn't quite get the most out of them. Our next section is wasted waivers, which will be happening a little bit differently this year. Instead of covering 3 batters and 3 pitchers that were left on the waivers or free agency that scored the most points, we're limiting it to just 4 players. In part, that is because there are fewer good players left on the waivers, obviously with 2 full new teams. And the other thing is, I thought it might be better just to spread it out a little bit differently. So we will cover 1 infield eligible player, 1 outfield eligible player, 1 starting pitcher, and 1 relief pitcher. So hopefully just a chance for you to kind of get an idea of, hey, maybe this person kind of needs to be picked up after having a good week, or maybe it was just opening week, and I don't think Joey Wiemer will be batting 1,000 for the rest of the season. Joey Wiemer was our outfielder. Of course, the Washington right fielder did tally up 32.3 points. He was actually, I believe, the best batter overall this week, but was left on the waiver wire. That's fine. It's Joey Wiemer. Luke Raley will register as our infielder, 24 points for Seattle's first base right field combo. 24.8, like I said, and with that dual position flexibility, that is pretty nice to see from Raley. Emerson Hancock out in Seattle. We all saw what he did on Sunday Night Baseball. He tallied up 38 points, just 0.2 of a point behind Christopher Sanchez for the best overall pitcher this week. Of course, he was on the waivers. I would expect, especially if we see Hancock show out again in, like he did on Sunday night, I think he'll be picked up very quickly. And Tim Hill, relief pitcher for the New York Yankees, did tally up 19.8 points. And he is a guy who I think features in the back end of that bullpen, someone we can definitely expect to see. New segment alert, wee woo, wee woo. This season, we will be introducing the Claims Corner. I tried to do it last year with the transaction tracker. I absolutely could not keep up with you animals, adding like 15 players a week each. I just could not keep track of who was adding and dropping and all of that stuff. So the transaction tracker basically just turned into trades, which is what it will remain as this year. But hey, claims are down to just 2 times a week. A little bit easier to organize, and there is a monetary value to them now as well. So that is an interesting wrinkle that is being thrown in. Of course, there were no claims on Monday relevant to this week because everybody was working on dropping players on Monday. But Thursday, we did see a few claims. Caleb Thielbar was claimed on waivers by the North Pole Natty Bows for $2. And probably the most interesting one, Dominic Canzone for $3 went to the St. Petersburg Tropopologists. Canzone, of course, recorded those 16 points for St. Pete on opening day on Thursday, so paid dividends right away, and that was certainly nice to see. It would not be a Lollygaggers League without some trades in the transaction tracker. We did see the Sault Ste. Marie Locks trade Alec Boehm over to the North Pole Natty Bows, as of course we mentioned earlier. That was in exchange for North Pole's 2027 second round pick. So Sault Ste. Marie stocking up just on some extra picks there and opening up a little space in their infield. Later in the week, we did see the Arctic Real Survivors trade TJ Friedel over to the Sault Ste. Marie Locks for Xander Bogaerts. So a little bit of an outfield for an infield swap there, and some young upside in Friedel and some veteran stability in Bogaerts. that is what we've got. So that is the recap of our first week. We will slide down to the final segment, which is, of course, next week's notes, where we will preview what is going on the next week. This section will get a little bit beefier as we continue throughout the season, and there are previous matchups that we can reference, and just trends to sort of call on, but hey, there's only so much you can do after just 1 week worth. So our first matchup is Sault Ste. Marie Locks, who are taking on the Arctic Real Survivors. It is the Expansion Bowl. Our two teams going up against one another. Sault Ste. Marie is 1-0 with the Real Survivors at 0-1. So they are each looking to push themselves with either their second win or their first win to get to 500 next week. Our next matchup is also a battle of the 0-1 versus 1-0. This one is the St. Petersburg Tropopologists versus the Joinville Friendly Capybaras. This one, I think, has chance for some real fireworks. Obviously, two teams that made it all the way to the LGCS last season, and two teams I think we all expect to be quite good this season as well. The Valley Gift Lords will be going up against the Soul Sovereigns as the only matchup who are both chasing their first win. So, hey, we know we'll have at least one fewer undefeated team next week, but both teams entering the week 0-1, looking for that first win against each other and to get into the group of 500. Portland Pioneers take on the Southwest Kansas Rabid Coyotes at 1-0 and 0-1 respectively for our fourth matchup. Our fifth matchup, we will see the Arizona Asphalt at their 1-0 record take on the Bronx Bandoleros at 0-1, looking to record a win against the Asphalt, who did tally their first this past week. Cuyahoga Black Panthers entering at 0-1 will take on the Fenton Melonheads at 1-0. A little bit of a battle of the Cleveland fans here in Serial Chillers and Big Peach, of course. I think they're probably enjoying what's going on in the Dodger game as I am recording. A little bit more than my wife is enjoying it. If you listen very closely in this podcast, you might be able to hear the sounds of that Dodger game happening in the background. If you listen even closer, you'll hear her cursing as they give up runs to the Guardians. And our final matchup of the week is the marquee matchup. It is the North Pole Natty Bows taking on the Washington State Winners. The inverse of our third matchup, both of these teams are 1-0. So we will have one fewer undefeated team, but one team is sure to ride into next week at 2-0. Obviously, this is a battle of two teams who we are expecting a lot out of this season, both chasing 2-0, and I think it should be a matchup with a lot of fireworks. Folks, I could not be happier to be back. I'm even more excited for next week when we're going to have Ace back and the two of us will be able to, banter a little bit. Again, passing along the message from him. He has just said he is so sorry to miss this first episode. Again, look, Riverside kind of screwed us. Hopefully it won't happen again. But we are... I can hardly wait for next Sunday already, as it should be a great time. Hope you all enjoyed this return. It was great to recap some actual matchups, and I will see you again this time next week. Have a good one, everyone.
Do you know what that makes you, Larry?
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers.